today's video, I will share the two different ways I make my own reptile heat mats. I will go through how to make them, what materials you will need, and discuss which style might be better for you. A short while ago, I found a new way of making large reptile heat mats. I have been making my own heat mats for a while now, but this new product I discovered allows me to make large reptile heat mats at a relatively low cost. The product I found is a type of infrared underfloor heating intended for human use. Basically, it is a thin sheet of film with a series of crystal carbon fiber embedded between two layers of heat-resistant plastics that will heat up when electricity passes through it. You might notice that these look almost identical to many commercially available reptile heat mats. That's because they are made out of the same materials. The only difference are that these are much larger and are sold in a roll that you can cut down to any length you need. It is more cost-effective if you need to heat up a large area or if you need to install many pieces, like for a reptile rack system. But the problem is that they don't usually come in a kit with everything you need to make it into a reptile heat mat, so you need to source your own parts for that. First thing is to choose the right size roll. The ones I've seen are either 50 or 80 centimeters wide, but I'm sure there are other sizes out there. Keep in mind that the width is set, and it's not something that you can change. Next, I measure out the length I need, and cut it down to the size with a pair of scissors. I then use a hole punch to make a hole in each copper strip towards the edge of the film. Then I place electrical terminals between the plastic films, making contact with the copper strip. These are then secured in place using metal grommets. The key in this process is to make sure that the grommets you use are small enough to fit through the ring terminals you're using, and the hole you're making on the film is large enough for the grommets to go through as well. To finish it off, I connected the wires to the terminals and covered up the terminal and the cut ends of the heat mat with electrical tape and aluminum tape. Don't forget to refer back to the product specifications for calculating the wattage and the current of a heat mat, as this might be important for choosing the right cable and the thermostat. The end result is a thin reptile heat mat that can heat up a large area at once. When you're searching for underfloor heating products, you might also find another type that looks like this. These ones have a heat cable that is weaved between some sort of mesh grid. They should work the same, but they look more thick and bulky. The heat mats that I have been making in the past were similar to this style. What I do was that I cut a piece of thin-walled polycarbonate roofing sheet to the size I want, and thread a reptile heat cord within it. I make sure that I space the cord out evenly, and also cut away bits of the plastic at the ends, so that the cord wouldn't stick out at either end. The end product is a durable and rigid heat panel that is quite water resistant. When using this inside an enclosure, I always make sure I put a towel over the heat panel so that the heat that the cable gives off is evenly distributed across the entire towel and won't have hot spots that might burn my reptiles. Now that I've gone through the two ways I make my own reptile heat mats, I'm going to compare the two different types. What I found is that the new style of heat mat is not a better alternative to the previous type. Each of them have their own strengths and are better suited for different applications. I generally go for the heat cord style heat mat when I want to place the heat mat inside the enclosure. It is the more durable and animal-proof design out of the two. It is especially good for being buried under substrate because it is less affected by water and moisture. This is the type of heat mat I use to heat up nesting boxes, where it will be exposed to moisture of the soil and the animals digging. I also use this method of threading heat cords within polycarbonate sheets to heat up my reptile incubators. The heat film style heat mats are better for covering a large area than the heat cord style ones. So occasionally, if I need a huge heat mat inside an enclosure, I might still go for the heat film style heat mats. But if I do choose to use the heat film style heat mats inside the enclosure, I will need to make sure that there is no way my animals can possibly come into contact with the electrical terminals. I will also need to make sure that wherever I place the heat mat would not be subjected to excessive moisture or water, so not on the damp substrate or in enclosures that get misted regularly. I used this style of heat mat in a heated hide box in my outdoor lace monitor enclosure. I placed tiles over it and blocked off the side of the heat mat that has the electrical wirings, so that there is no chance my monitor will rip the insulation tape off and electrocute themselves. The heat film style heat mat is also good for heating plastic tubs and glass enclosures from underneath. They are thin and can easily be taped onto the bottom of the enclosures using aluminum tape. I use it for nighttime heating on all of my Exoterra enclosures, as well as heating up my wood roach colonies. Lastly, as with all reptile heating products, they should be used in conjunction with the thermostat to prevent overheating.